I apologize about that, guys. We had some technical difficulties. Hopefully the stream doesn't crash again. How this is gonna work, if you guys kind of missed it, is I'm gonna ask a couple of questions, 15 questions specifically to three special guests for the podcast. At the end, they're more than welcome to ask me any questions or any concerns that they may have, or any questions that they have. And then if we have time, if time permits, then we will add three more guests onto the show, or more guests onto the show if time permits. And then we will take this content, upload onto YouTube. So for those of you who missed it, we'll also get to view it on YouTube as well. So the first thing, the first person who is going to be talking in our podcast is gonna be. I apologize if I mispronounce your name. If I do, you're more than welcome to re-enunciate it yourself, because I know I might butcher some names and I might get some things wrong, and I apologize. I'm not the best pronunciator here. So on our first podcast, or first person that we have on our podcast, his name is Osiris, and let me get him here. All right, so the first person that we have on the podcast is Osiris. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, man. How about you?
I'm good. So the first question that I have for you is gonna be, obviously, if these questions you don't want to answer it, you're more than welcome. You don't have to answer them. They're kind of just there. But my first question to you is, what is your name?
Uh, my name is John Franco, and I'm also known as Osiris in, online internet.
All right. So then, my second question to you is, how old are you?
I'm 15 years old.
Um. So then, my third question is, what esports games do you play, if you play any at all?
I'm currently playing Brawlhalla, which is a fighting game.
Okay. So then, my fourth question to you is, do you currently play for an organization or a team of some sort?
It's kind of complicated at the moment, so I can't really say much about it.
Okay. My next question to you is, what got you into the esports communities or slash scene?
I say the players, to be honest, because the players in the fighting game scene are so passionate and just grateful for the things that their talent can bring them and just like where they are and stuff. I just feel like the community is like very passionate about, fighting games and stuff.
All right. And so then, going into that, why do you think people should invest into esports?
It's a great thing. Like I personally would do it, and I would recommend you to because you'll have a great experience. Have a great experience, and you meet a lot of new people that are fun to be around, and you can have a lot of good talks with too.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a great time, honestly.
All right. So then, my next question to you is, do you have any idols or people you don't, or do you have any people that you don't like in esports scene, like people that you watch and you kind of like don't like, or you kind of
Yeah.
despise, or you kind of like, why does that person have this much fame or this much reputation when he doesn't do anything for the community, and he kind of just takes it for granted?
Not really. I appreciate everybody's effort and like their own personal rise to fame. I'm not really the type of person to hate on people,
Mm-hmm.
and I just feel like that's wrong. And there must be somewhat of a reason why they got to that peak in their career, and I just feel like it would make me seem more horrible than them if I were to attack them for a reason.
Mm-hmm. And to the audience who's actually watching this, you're more than welcome to throw any questions into the Twitch chat. And if you want them to answer it, then if enough people ask the same question, then that person can feel free to answer if that person wants to or not. So then moving on to the other questions. What is your number one goal in the esports scene as a player?
As a player, honestly, I understand like tournament, like achievements and stuff are like somewhat of a decent part when it comes to tournaments and stuff. But I feel like, well, my goal is to just achieve a certain peak in my career where I can go somewhere with it, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
and just do something.
All right. So then my next question to you is, what is one thing that you like about the esports community?
I would say why I like mostly about it is that, like I said again, the people.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've talked to so many like CEOs and like co-owners of organizations, and they're just so fun to talk about because they have so many like they have experienced so many things, and you got so many questions, and it's just really helpful.
Mm-hmm. And then what is one thing that you don't like about the esports community?
Uh, I would say most people are like toxic,
Mm-hmm.
and that's like I would say the backside of esports, and why I would understand why some people don't want to invest into it. Like it takes a lot of time and stuff, but then there's certain point in time where you're gonna experience a toxic situation, and it's kind of hard to handle. And I do understand that because I've been in a lot.
Mm-hmm. All right. So then, um, it might be the same question as I just kind of asked, but what is one thing that you don't like about organizations in general?
Um, no offense to any organizations out there that I have spoken up to or talked to. I would say management staff that's very inactive because I personally have many experiences with these type of organizations, and I feel like having an active management staff means a lot because you're able to reach out to people more faster instead of having them to wait a whole entire week just for a single message. And another thing I personally dislike is um how should I say this is owners that like to take advantage of things. Like they have a organization that is very well grown and very well known in that scene and just take advantage of it. And I feel like that's messed up to the players and the
Mm-hmm.
teams and it's kind of a really weird situation to be in.
Okay.
And I do feel bad for the players.
Okay. Um. So then, moving on to kind of the going on off of that question. If there's one thing that you can change about the esports scene, what would it be and why?
One thing I would change is geez, it's not really much I would, I'm not that too expanded into the esports scene as I started competing or being in esports
Mm-hmm.
like this year. But I would say is if I had the possibility or the power to change the way people are, I would honestly because those there's a small group of people that are like chill and stuff and they're willing to help you out and then there's just this other group of people which is I believe majority of esports player which are straight up like egotistical and just take their ability to play into turn it into toxic toxicity I should say and it's just really weird and unneeded in my opinion.
Okay. Um. So then my next question is there a game out there that isn't already in the esports scene that you feel like can thrive under the esports scene?
Can you repeat that question?
A game out there that is not like considered an esports like title. Is there a game out there
Mm-hmm.
that you think that would thrive in the esports scene that's not already in considered esports?
Hmm. I would say, it's kind of hard and tough for me a little bit. Uh, give me a second to
Mm-hmm.
think.
Yeah, no problem. Take your time.
I think a lot of speedrunning games would be nice in the esports scene, making it would kind of be a weird thing, but at the same time, it sounds very interesting to me.
Okay.
I feel like games that are speed run would make the esports scene, I wouldn't say interesting, but unique because speedrunning games are very like fun to look at and exciting when the player does some major glitch and something like that.
Hmm.
So I feel like games that have the capability to be speedrun should be an esports title. Not necessary for competing, but more show to like show it off.
Okay. All right. So then, my next question is, do you have any advice to share or give out there to people who are either new to the esports scene or people who are in the same boat as you who want to make it big out there?
So I'll be honest, you just gotta have a drive. You gotta have that push because there's 100% you're always gonna be in a situation where you're gonna be put down and it's gonna be hard for you. I'm just telling you, if you just push through that, practice, get people to practice with, just push yourself and push yourself to that potential that you have, and I'm 100% sure that you'll be able to make it anywhere you want in your esports career, and you'll be able to show people the talent that you have. So just have motivation, be able to push yourself, practice constantly, do whatever it takes for you to make it to the big leagues.
All right. And then my last question to you is, are you excited for any new games coming out within this year, regardless if it's competitive or non-competitive?
Um, hmm. I'm actually very excited for the new Call of Duty and Battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
Those seem like games that are like kind of worthy to like chill on and stuff. Because I have been playing Call of Duty for quite some time. I don't want to get into like competitively.
Mm-hmm.
I don't find that scene too well, I guess you could say.
Okay. All right, so that's all the questions I have for you. I want to thank you again for taking some time out of your day to answer these questions and being on part of the Brainless eSports podcast. Is there any questions for me? Any questions for any rhetorical questions for the audience, or anything you want to say in general to the people out there who are viewing and watching this podcast?
Not really, but if any of the audience does have a question for me, I'd love to answer any of those.
We do have one question in the chat from Admiral Admiral Akbar. He's asking you who's the chick on your Twitter profile.
Oh, my- oh, it's just a random picture I found on Google. There's nothing much to it, man.
Hmm. And I mean, other than that, there's really no other questions for you, unless you have any questions for me in general.
Nah, not really.
Okay. Well, again, thank you for tuning in and being a part of the podcast. I really appreciate it. Me and my organization really appreciate it. Um, if you have no other further questions or any comments or anything like that, then like I said, thank you again.
Hmm.
And then without further ado, I want to bring on the next guest onto our podcast. He's one of
All right.
Brainless eSports Rainbow Six Siege player. His name is No Pause. Want to welcome you on board onto the podcast.
Thank you.
So then, same questions. So my first question too is, what is your name?
My name is Zach Robinson. I also am known as No Pulse.
All right. So then my next question is, how old are you?
I'm 17.
What esports games do you play, if any?
So right now I play Rainbow Six Siege. I used to play Overwatch at a really high level. I peaked top 25 in North America under Overwatch. I played under a team called Flatline. We ended up actually disbanding because members wanted to take a break and never ended up coming back together again. So I eventually moved to Rainbow Six Siege, and here I am.
All right. Obviously, the fourth question is not going to be asked because people already know that you currently play for Brainless eSports. So then, my next question to you, moving on to that, is what got you into the esports scene?
So my passion for esports has been with me for a while. I've known since I was quite young that this is what I wanted to do, and I wanted to make it far always, and I've always been striving to be the best that I can. I started playing video games when I was about 4 years old, and I've stuck with it ever since. And yeah, just passion really has just kept me with it for so long.
Okay. Why do you think people should invest into the esports community?
People should invest into the esports community because all the games that are like esports ready and that play for esports are all super growing really massively, and esports is like becoming bigger and bigger every day. They're like completely stripping down movie theaters now to make esports arenas. So I think investing in esports could be a really wise decision like going on in the future.
All right. And then my next question to you is: do you have any people you watch that you dislike or despise in the esports scene?
I definitely don't have anyone that I despise,
Mm-hmm.
because anyone that I watch is generally quite big and they deserve everything that they've got. The only people I say I would despise are people who are better than me.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I hate to admit it, but yeah, those people because I wish I could be in their position. I wish I could be, what they're doing. So, but they deserve everything that they've ever done for it. So I definitely don't despise anyone.
Okay. What is your number one goal in the esports scene as a player?
So my goal would be to go on and in terms of Rainbow Six Siege, win the professional league and also the invitational under Rainbow Six Siege, and then eventually become a streamer under esports is what I would like to go into.
Okay. What's one thing that you like or love about the esports community?
One thing I like is definitely the people. It definitely has its downside, like the toxicity, but you can always meet these really great people who are, super good at the game, who can teach you tricks, and are just like really nice people to be around. So I would definitely say that people have to be the probably the best thing.
Okay. Um, what is what is the number one thing that you dislike or you hate about the esports community?
As I just mentioned, it definitely has to be the toxicity. I'm not gonna lie, I can get a bit heated myself in the moment. Um, but it's definitely like some people just take it to a level where it should never get to. Like at the end of the day, you're just playing a game against some other people. There's no need to be really that upset about against other people.
Mm-hmm. So then, give me one thing that you dislike about organizations.
Um, I've I've worked with some organizations in the past, and I would definitely have to agree with what Osiris said. There has been some instances where, we've been working like super hard, all the teams have been working really hard, and then the management kind of just goes like MIA and nothing really gets communicated to the players of what's going on. And so it's mainly just been like the managers just leaving the players in the dust with like nothing to know like what's going on. Is probably the one thing that I would dislike the most.
Okay. If there's one thing that you can do to change the esports scene or the esports community, what would it be and why?
Hmm. I don't really know how I would change the esports scene because at the end of the day I'm just a player.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know how that would happen.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't know how to answer that.
Okay. Um, but if there was okay, so then let me try to rephrase it in a way that maybe you could answer. So if there's
Hmm.
like if you were given the opportunity to, pick one thing to remove that a lot of people don't like about the esports scene, what would it be? Would it be the toxicity? Would it be the maybe like how people always talk negatively towards one another because they lose a match?
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
would it be like a
So
team hopping, like how teams hop from one
yeah.
org to another org? Like,
Okay. So obviously, I would say okay. So toxicity and just negative attitude towards other players. It's kind of like messed up in my opinion. There shouldn't really be like. At the end of the day, you're just playing a game against each other. You know, like you can always come back and win. It's nothing impossible. So definitely the negative attitude from like one player to another player, and then just like toxicity in general.
Hmm.
Like in ranked game, you can just join a game and all of a sudden some guy can just shoot you out of nowhere because he doesn't like you, and then your team gets punished for it because that guy is just having a horrible attitude.
Hmm. Okay. So then, is there a game out there already that is not considered esports that you feel like would thrive under the esports community?
I don't really know because I only really play a couple games.
Mm-hmm.
I only really play FPS shooters. I generally stick away from everything else.
Okay.
Because that's just where I shine. So I
Okay.
really don't know.
Is there any FPS shooters out there that you feel like would thrive heavily under the esports scene that isn't like considered esports already?
Again, I only really play games that already have esports scenes,
Okay.
so I don't really know
Okay.
any other game.
Yep, no problem. Um, my next question to you is: do you have any advice or anything to give or share out to the people who are watching out there who are either new to the esports scene or people who are just like you in the position that you are, who want to go out there, prove to people that they can make it big?
So some of the best advice I could give is no matter how many, toxic people you're gonna run into, no matter how many people like ruin your day, you have to stick with it. Because if at the end of the day, like that's what's making you not want to play, like wherever you get big, and if you get big, you will always have people hating on you. You always have people who are trying to put you down. But what separates, some streamers from others is people's ways like to ignore that and just get past it and not have to deal with it. So I would definitely just say like ignore all the BS, ignore all the toxic people, just have fun with it. And if you're in my position when you're trying to show off and like get yourself out there, it's definitely just play your best is really all you can do, and just hope.
Okay. And then my last question to you is: are you excited for any new titles coming out within the 2018 year, regardless if it's competitive or it's non-competitive?
Um, I don't really know because I generally just stick to the games that I like to play.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really into like Call of Duty. I'm not really into like Battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
And I've played Battlefield a little bit, and it can be quite fun if you're playing with like a group of friends and you're all like messing around and just having a good time. So
Okay.
I'd probably say Battlefield is probably
Okay.
Battlefield.
Okay. Um. I do have we do have one question in the chat from the same
Uh-huh.
person, Admiral Akbar. He is asking you, what are your grades in school, and he's curious about it. I don't know if you want to answer that or if it's too
Yeah,
personal.
I'll answer it. I don't
Hmm.
mind. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not the grade A student. I'm not the I get season B's. I gotta do what I gotta do to get past. That's really all that I mind. I'm not really worried about going to like some 4-year Ivy League college. I'm just because I know what I want to do. Like I definitely, if I have to, I'll go to a community college then transfer. I really don't mind, but right now I think I'm just putting all my time and effort into esports right now.
Okay. Are there any questions? Anything you want to say further for me or the people watching out there in
Uh,
general?
I definitely don't have any questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have any questions for anyone else either.
Okay.
So yeah,
All
I
right.
think that's it for me.
Okay. Well, I mean, there's no questions for me. There's nothing that you want to say further into the audience. Admiral Akbar in the chat is telling me to tell you that you're a beast.
Thank
um,
you.
so there's no other questions or no further advice to give out there shared to the people who are watching the podcast. I want to thank you again for being the second guest into our podcast. I really appreciate it.
Of
Um,
course.
and then bringing on our third and last member, that third and last person to be on our podcast. is Royal. Um, so I want to welcome, like I said, yep, a third and last person, unless we have any other takers, um, last minute who are viewing and want to talk about themselves in the podcast. Like I said, let us know in the Twitch chat, or feel free to message my organization via Twitter, so you can be featured into the podcast if you want. But without further ado, I want to bring on to Royal, who will be our last scheduled person onto our podcast.
Hello?
Yep, you are good. So my first question to you is, what is your name?
So my name is Diego, but I go by Royal on just about everywhere. Twitch, Twitter, tag is Royal1. So that's gonna be that for you.
Okay. How old are you?
I am 21.
Okay. What esports games do you play, if any?
So right now I am super heavy into this popular game you may have heard of. It's called Fortnite. Uh, it's kind of new, not many people have heard of it. But yeah, I'm playing that one right now.
Okay. Do you currently play for any organization or team at the moment?
Yes, I am on the competitive team for Ascendant Gaming. And I've been there for about a month and a half, maybe 2 months.
Okay.
It's a relatively new experience, but it's been great so far.
Okay. What got you into the esports scene?
Uh, I've actually been in high school I was an athlete in college, ball and stuff like that. So I've always been very competitive. And video games have also been a huge part of my life. Since Halo 2 days, since Halo 1 days, whenever Halo 2, whenever you could first start playing with your friends online. I've always wanted to be better than them. And so, I wasn't really in the competitive scene back then, but I was always striving to be really good as I could be. And the earliest I got into competitive was probably Halo 5, when I tried to do like all the ranking matches and stuff like that. And I decided, after doing like the placement matches, and I got to Onyx, I think, in a couple of the categories, I was like, you know what, maybe I can actually do this. I'm gonna put my mind into it and see what I can do.
Okay. Why do you think people should invest into the esports scene?
Reason, there's a bunch of reasons. I mean, it's huge. I don't know if you guys are, I don't know how familiar you guys are with Fortnite. I was just being, facetious earlier. But like, it's the biggest game right now. They just announced that they're going to do a $100 million prize pool for all their tournaments within the coming year. So for a year period. If that doesn't raise, if you're an investor and that doesn't raise your eyebrows, I don't know what will. $100 million up for grabs. If you're a team, invest in a team, that now would be the time. Go pick up players, go pick up, teams that you can compete in these tournaments and win some of that money. Reason is that esports is in a hyper growth right now. With like, there's so many people popping up, so many, like the only organizations that you can say are, tried and true are these, the real big names, TSM, FaZe, Luminosity, stuff like that. Like everybody else is relatively new, and or relatively small. So like everybody's here, they're just trying to figure out where they're going to be, where they're going to land in the whole esports scene. And some people are pretenders and some people are contenders. And at the end of the day, we'll see, who the real ones are. And you have the, I guess, business to be able to put yourself at the top, then that would be a perfect opportunity for you to seize on.
Okay. Do you have any people that you watch via Twitch or YouTube that you you personally don't like, or you kind of question how they came to where they are today in the esports scene?
Like, I don't really particularly dislike very many people. Everybody has their problems with a person here and there, but I've actually am pretty, what's the word, pretty shocked at how many people are bringing positivity with, and I'm speaking with my game personally with Fortnite.
Mm-hmm.
All the big streamers for Fortnite, they are super positive. They do a bunch of charity auction or charity streams. They donate a lot of money to the less fortunate and stuff like that. And then they're also super super cool to their fan base. Like they always do like these little small giveaways or meet them in person at these conventions and hang out with them, take pictures and stuff like that. And I just think that's a really cool thing that I'm sure it goes on in other scenes as well, competitive scenes as well. But I'm just strictly speaking from mine.
Okay. So then, what is your number one goal in the esports scene as a player?
It's gonna be to obviously to be the best. You're not gonna be able to see. You're not gonna. Everyone wants to be the best, but there's only gonna be the top maybe 5 guys that anybody can argue is like, oh, this guy's the best. This guy's the best. This guy's the best. Those top guys. I want to be one of those 5 guys. I want to be the one that somebody's like, oh, who's the best player for this game? And there, and in a crowd of people, somebody mentions my name, and that's what I want to be. I want to be that good. I can doubt that I deserve to be mentioned in that conversation.
Okay. So then, what is one thing that you like or you love about the esports community?
One thing that I like a lot is the camaraderie. I like the camaraderie. I like the banter and playful banter. Obviously, not over the top, but I really like the banter. I have a bunch of we do a bunch of scrimmage matches with other teams and stuff, and it's real fun. When sometimes we'll get them, sometimes they'll get us, and at the end of the day, we'll come into each other's parties. Guys, good game, and I got you, or you wouldn't have got me if this didn't happen, stuff like that. And it's just the positivity, like even if you lose, there's something you can improve on, something you can learn from your mistakes, and the fact that there are people being not necessarily negative about beating you is something I really enjoy.
Okay. So then, going off of that, what is the number one thing that you don't like about the esports community?
So basically, the opposite of that. The one thing I don't like is whenever, because no matter what game you play, you're always going to run into some people that are. I mean, they might just be having a bad day, but there's always going to be people that are overly negative, overly anti you, and whenever you're competing at a very high level, and there's people who are not quite at that level, they're always going to find an excuse as to why they lost to you. And so that kind of brings out the negativity in people. They never want to just, good game, man, good game, next time I'll get you. They always are immediately quick to point the blame at something. Maybe they're accusing you of doing this or that, cheating or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's like they were saying earlier, it's just a game. You're supposed to have fun with it.
Okay.
That's the point.
Okay. So then, give me one thing that you dislike about organizations. I know that you're currently under one, but then I'm sure if you've joined organizations in the past, there must be some things that you dislike about organizations, or that you might be a little skeptical on when you first join organizations.
I think anyone joining a new organization should be skeptical, especially if they're if you're small time. If you're you're just not getting into the scene, or maybe you're joining a new team that you don't really know much about. You just kind of know they talk to you a little bit, and they convince you to come over. As I said earlier, esports is in a hyper growth, and that means that there are a ton of teams popping up every day. A ton of teams that are gonna, at the end of the day, there's gonna be 100 teams popping up, and one of those is gonna succeed, and the other 99 are gonna fail. And you need to know one that's gonna succeed, or if you're gonna be, falling by the wayside with the rest of the 99. One thing I would suggest is that just make sure you do your research when you're joining somebody, joining a new organization. Make sure that they're, good people and stuff like that that you can trust and look to be long term with.
Okay. If there is one thing that you can do to change the esports community or the esports scene, what would it be and why?
So right now, it's the thing I love about esports is that it's super accessible. Meaning that anybody can do it. Anybody, any kid with an Xbox, any adult with a PS4, anybody with a computer, even with a phone. I mean, some games are competitive on phone, like mobile games and stuff like that. They're not as big, obviously, as console and PC, but they're getting there. And that's one thing I like about it. But the thing is that not that many people know about esports, right? Like it's huge. Don't get me wrong. It's in a huge growth compared to the amount of people in the world or even in the United States. Not that many people know about it. And if I could change one thing about it, it would be to help everyone at least learn about it a little bit. Maybe not, drown them with knowledge, but show them what's out there. And if they like it, they'll jump on, they'll jump in and help grow the community's that would be the one thing I'd change.
Okay. So then, is there a game out there already that doesn't have the esports title under it that you feel that would thrive under the esports scene?
This game called Ark Survival Evolved. And I don't know if you've heard of it or not. Before PUBG was out and before Fortnite, and I don't know if they were before H1Z1. I think they were around the same time. I'm not sure. I just remember whenever I came into it, they had a game mode that is separate from the regular game called Survival of the Fittest. And it's also a battle royale experience. But it takes place in that same map that's part of the game. So Ark Survival Evolved game, you're basically a primitive person living in on a dinosaur world. And so in the Survival of the Fittest game, they had it to where it was a battle royale experience, and you could tame dinosaurs mid-match that could help you fight to reach number one, obviously. I think they support for that Ark did themselves, but I know a bunch of people who did play it before, because they still have the servers live. And there's some really competitive people, really good people in that game. And I think if Ark was to pick it back up and say, you know what, we're gonna go with this game mode, we're gonna do tournaments for it, set prizes, I think it could really do well, especially with he has.
Okay. So then, do you have any advice to share or give out there to people who are, new to the esports scene, or people just like in your position who want to make it to the number one status?
Biggest thing I can say, the most important thing I think that is you have to believe in yourself. Because at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to doubt you. Everyone is going to be, and especially if you're in the community, there's going to be a bunch of people who want you. If you're already at the top, maybe you're not the best one, but you're getting there. People are going to want your spot towards you, or they're going to say that they're better than you, and they're going to try to get you down. You just need to block that out. You just need to believe in yourself and keep your head down, keep grinding. And if you're putting in the work, the results are going to show. And if you're putting in the work to be number one, you will be number one.
Okay. So then my last question to you is, are you excited for any new titles coming out within this year, regardless if it's a competitive or a non-competitive game?
Two games I'm interested in. One is called Death Stranding. And I'm not really sure what the game is about. The trailer that I saw, it was very cryptic. I think it was at one of these conventions, game conventions. But it has the guy, I don't know if you've ever seen The Walking Dead. It has the guy Daryl from it.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, they put him in the game. That's one game that I'm pretty excited about. It was a really cool trailer. You should check it out if you haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
But obviously, I'm excited about the Call of Duty. I've never been a huge Call of Duty fan. I played one of the Call of Duties a lot, but the fact that they're adding a battle royale experience like that's that is huge. I think it's going to do really well. I don't know if it'll do as well as Fortnite. It'll definitely do pretty good because it has the name Call of Duty behind it. But the fact that Fortnite is free just gives it an edge over anybody else.
Okay. So that's all the questions I have for you. Is there any questions for me in general? Or is there anything that else you want to, tell to the people out there who are currently viewing the podcast, or anything you want to say to anyone in general out there?
So anyone listening out there, if you haven't checked out Fortnite, you should check it out. Very, very fun battle royale experience. I know me and my team are looking forward to be playing in future tournaments, and we're gonna get a slice of that $100 million pie.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to say, or any advice?
What's up, man?
Okay. I mean, there's no other questions or any more advice or anything else you want to say. I want to thank you again for being a part of the podcast. I appreciate it. My organization appreciates it. Now, to you viewers out there who are currently viewing and watching the podcast, if you want to be a part of the podcast, I'm gonna be on here for 5 more minutes. If you want to be a part of it, feel free to let me know in the Twitch chat to my left, but to your right. And I will more than willing to bring you onto the podcast. Or you can just message my organization page at Brainless HQ, and I will answer you back, and I'm more than happy to bring you onto the podcast. So you are more than welcome to answer these questions that these three special guests have answered. If not within the next couple of minutes, I will, the podcast will conclude here. So then the other two guests are more than welcome to, say anything to anyone out there. I know that Osiris has left. And like I said, I appreciate him for, viewing, or appreciate him for being a part of the podcast. I really appreciate it. The whole point of these podcasts are to kind of bring more attention to the the esports community, kind of point out the flaws, kind of point out the positives, kind of giving people the more information about why people should start looking and viewing more into esports. um, you know so you have a whole bunch of different opinions about different organizations. As you all noticed, these players and these guests that we brought onto the podcast, they were not all from the same game. They weren't from all Call of Duty or Fortnite or Rainbow Six Siege. You have one from Fortnite, one from Rainbow Six Siege, and another one was a Brawlhalla player. So they're all different branches out of the esports scene. So they all have different points of view. They all have different opinions. Obviously, that hearing from them that the number one thing that they don't like or they wish that was changed is the toxicity and the negativity in the esports scene. Me personally, I know that um, coming from a esports organization owner slash player back in the past, I experienced the negativity and the toxicity as well, which is kind of why I stopped playing competitively. I used to play Counter-Strike and Call of Duty competitively, but then considering how like I said in the past, people will team hop and org hop. People declare themselves free agents after like losing one team scrim or one league match. People blaming one another and not being responsible for their own like actions. If they're the ones who messed up playing, or they caused it, they're not gonna own up to it and be like, I'll play better. They rather blame other people to make themselves feel better, or they don't want to, like I said, they don't want to take responsibility for it. And the whole point of this, like I said, is just to bring more awareness into the esports scene and community, and different perspectives and personalities from different games and players. I'm hoping to keep this doing a more weekly thing every Saturday, from 6 p.m. Central Standard Time until whenever it decides to end. I don't have an end time. Hoping that we can get anywhere from like 3 to 6 guests who want to answer these questions, who want to give advice, who want to give their own opinions and thoughts about the esports scene and community. But other than that, I don't have anything else further to give you guys. There's no more guests. Nobody has messaged me up via Twitter or said anything via group chat. Tune in here again next week, Saturday. Like I said, next Saturday from 6 p.m. Central Standard Time until whenever the podcast decides to end. And we will have new special guests with the same questions. I might remodify some questions just so it kind of makes it more clear and understand and much more clear to the person who's trying to answer the question. If you want to be part of the podcast, you're more than welcome to message me via Discord, via Twitter at bust_BL, or you can message my organization page via Twitter, which is at Brainless HQ. They will both be thrown into the chat so you can view it and you can let us know. If you want to be a part of the podcast, please let me know as soon as possible. Must let me know by Friday morning, Friday evening around that time, so that way it gives me a solid answer that you can or you cannot do it. But otherwise, I have nothing else further for you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys, and thanks for the special guest that we had. Really appreciate you guys answering these questions, giving your thoughts and your feedback and your opinions about the esports scene and everything. Without further ado, that is gonna be it for the podcast. Thanks guys for viewing, and we'll catch you guys next week.